We're back here the whole 9 yards on a Thursday afternoon. Drew Pien here with Brandon Kokorian. Brandon, how's it going?
Good. Had a pretty good week so far. How would you?
Pretty good. How's the hot dog?
Oh yeah, the hot dog. The hot dog was pretty good. I think the fries were better. As I was telling Drew, they usually have chicken tenders, but they didn't have any when I went, so I had to settle for the hot dog. But it wasn't bad.
That's good. The name is Ted. The name of this food truck is. By the way, I don't know why our school does so many food trucks. They did it last year to kind of make up for the fact that COVID and meal points and stuff, essentially. And I guess they're continuing it at least a little bit this year. But there's a food truck called Ted Steaming Burgers. Worst food truck name ever. I mean, it sounds awful.
Yeah, no, it doesn't sound good.
But anyways,
food's not bad.
Yeah. Anyways, let's just got some football stuff. I guess we'll start off just going over the predictions. So week 1, Brandon went 5-0, and I went 3-2. So got off to a good start. Week 2, I went 4-1. Brandon, I think you went 3-2.
I think it went 2-3. Bengals, that one lost. Niners, that one hit. Cardinals, that one lost. Seahawks, that one lost. Packers, that one won. So yeah, I went 2-3.
Okay.
I feel like I should have done better. The Seahawks blew that game. So they were winning by what? 4? They were up 15 at half. And I think they were still up double digits in the fourth quarter. So that one was kind of blown. Cardinals, Vikings. The Cardinals they have the ball inside the 5-yard line when they were still up 31-30, I think. So they could have scored a touchdown. They didn't. And then Bengals, Bears. The Bears lost by 3 points. So
your games looked pretty good at midway through, and then it kind of just started to crumble apart. Yeah. I want to make sure I went 4-1. I'm pretty sure Panthers, Saints I hit on. I had Carolina winning by just winning.
Yeah.
The Broncos at Jaguars. I took Jaguars plus 6. Not the move.
No.
On that one. Bills, Dolphins. I hit on that. I picked the Bills to win that. They obviously won. 49ers, Eagles, I hit that, right?
Yeah, you took San Fran.
Yeah. And then Pats, Jets, I hit on that as well. So 4-1. So, we're off to a pretty good start. And these are against the spread. And, if you're above 500, if you were to bet on all these and you're above 500, you're probably making money, especially if you're above 500 by a significant amount. And we're doing pretty well. So I'm ecstatic about it. Week 3, though, I was actually surprised to see one of your picks because in week 2 you had picked Titans at Seahawks. You had picked Seahawks. And now for week 3, I see that one of your picks. It's a little bit of a spoiler, but the Colts and Titans matchup. You're picking the Titans.
Yeah, and I'll get into detail about why. I think if you probably don't know, then maybe you're just not following the NFL. But it doesn't seem like Wentz is going to play that game. So.
I don't like the Titans.
I don't really like the Titans either, but if you're telling me that Jacob Eason is going to be the starting quarterback for the Colts, I don't have much faith in them to win that game. So I think Titans make sense there.
If Jacob Eaton is starting, let me give you
Eason, yeah.
Easton. I know he was the guy that followed up Minshew at Washington. I want to say.
Yeah, I think so. Washington State.
The case for Eason is that he has pretty much never thrown a ball in the NFL, so there's no NFL film on him. I'm not saying he's a super special type of guy that is you need the film on him to know what he is. He's not Lamar or anything, but at least there's no film on him, which is a positive. He's a guy that I think is more, if you want to say NFL ready than others. I think that's kind of fair. I'm not saying he's going to be great, but he's not as much of a project as somebody like maybe people think Trey Lance is. So that would be a positive. And then as well, I would say Wentz hasn't been good anyways. And I think you've had a downgrade from Phillip Rivers so far this year. So,
well, I would say how much of that is Wentz's fault and how much is that in the offensive line's fault?
I'd say it's 50-50, but still.
I think Wentz definitely hasn't played well. Now, they had 2 really tough matchups. You went Seahawks, Rams. That's just not the easiest schedule to open up no matter what team you are. So to be 0-2, obviously you want to at least be 1-1 there. You're 0-2, that sucks. But the offensive line's not played up to their capability. Wentz hasn't played up to his either, but considering the circumstances of, like I said, the offensive line, the defense hasn't been amazing. They're a top 10 defense. I think they've been playing probably middle of the pack right now. So he wasn't getting a lot of help. That red zone execution that happened last week was terrible. I think they had 2 or 3 possessions inside at least the 10-yard line, and I think they came away with rather 3 or 7 points on 3 possessions. That's obviously not good. You need to at least get 10 points at least, most likely 14. So that was really bad. So I don't know. And then him, he sprained both of his ankles at the minimum. That's all we know. He probably has some other injury as well. If he plays, I probably still stick with the Titans. But with him not playing, I think it's just Eason's not. There's a reason why he was third string before Sam Ellinger got injured. So then he went to backup, and now he's starter if Wentz doesn't play.
And one thing I will say actually is I think I have the updated odds on you. At least the article I looked at from Fox Bet or whatever was the updated odds, whereas like 50 minutes ago, like 20 minutes ago. And the line did change a little bit, and I believe mine's right. Colts at Titans, and the Titans are favored by 5.5. You have the Titans favored by 4.5.
I still have them at 4.5.
Does what you're saying updated for sure?
I just clicked it. I just reloaded the page and everything. I still have it at 4.5, but if it's 5.5, I still have it at 4.5. So
that's okay. I don't know,
but I think either way, I think I'd stay with it. If it's 4.5, 5.5, I'll stay with it. I think the Titans are just going to beat them. I think that Henry, the way that he came on last week, if he can do that, and again, he wasn't even good for the first half and a little bit. He wasn't even that good. Then he had a 60-yard run. He kept having big runs. The offensive line was finally winning at the line of scrimmage. If that can keep happening against the Colts, there's no way Henry doesn't have a monster day again.
So I saw what you were looking at. I'm looking at I guess I can put the link in the chat that we have, but it was a article published 3 days ago, updated 2 hours ago. And I did see the difference in the lines, so I'm not sure which one we would go with, but we'll go with 4.5. We'll go with 4.5.
If you're good with 4.5, that's fine. So.
Well, you were with 4. It's fine. We'll go 4.5.
But I was just saying because yours says 5.5, mine says 4.5. If you're good with it being at 4.5, then that's fine.
There's also 2 other games we bet on that we have as slightly different because we did these not together. I have Tampa favored by 1, and you have them favored by 1.5. We'll just go with yours for all of them because that's not changing my decision. And then Seahawks Vikings, you have the Seahawks favored by 1.5. I have them favored by 2. I'll do 1.5 as well. All right. So games from last week.
Yeah.
Do you have one you want to start out with?
I think the game we'll probably start out with. Last week wasn't a great game. I would say probably the Chiefs and the Ravens. That's obviously the game of the week that happened last week. Sunday Night Football. None of us touched it, but I think there was a reason not to touch it. I think we probably would have been wrong. We probably would have went with the Chiefs, so we would have been wrong. I don't know what the line on it was, but the Ravens won 36-35. It was a great game. It looked, third play of the game, Lamar throws a pick 6, so they're already down 7-0 after getting the ball. They go right back down, score a touchdown, a very impressive drive from Lamar. Then Chiefs come right back, score a touchdown. So it seemed like it was going to be a super high-scoring affair. It still ended up being high-scoring, 36-35, but it kind of slowed down a little bit in the middle of the game before the Ravens kind of took it over in the second half. But just a really good game. We've had some amazing games so far. It's only been 2 weeks. We've probably had at least, the Ravens-Raiders game and then this game. So at least 2, really good games so far. And then even the Thursday night game between the Washington and the Giants. So it's been 2 really good weeks of football, and this was just another one to add on to that.
So I was able to listen to this game. I wasn't able to necessarily watch it. I was driving the whole game. So I did watch I watched Matthew's first interception, and then pretty much after that touchdown drive after that the Ravens got, I pretty much listened to it the full way through. So in terms of specific plays, I'm not going to be a wizard here, but well, after that first pick, I was like, wow, this game's over already.
Yeah.
Obviously, it wasn't over. But, so, I mean, in terms of, like, the AFC picture, what do I take away from this game? I really take away nothing from it. If anything, this actually makes me feel more confident in the Chiefs, like, versus the Ravens. To me, other than a few plays, the Ravens had to have a really good game. And the Chiefs, I mean, they essentially gave the game away. And I just think that I just don't see a game like this happening again in the playoffs. So it's tough for me to really take much away from it. I can't be happy if I'm a Ravens fan from this game. And Lamar is still, I know Lamar had a good game overall, but Lamar still, to me, I mean, he didn't necessarily change my mind on him not being like an elite or even really like an above average thrower of the football.
Yeah.
I still don't trust him down anything significant in the playoffs when you know you have to throw the ball. And because of that, this game to me, yes, it's nice for the standings. And if this race is close for the 1 seed between these two teams, which I don't think it would be, but if it is, then that's going to help the Ravens out. But other than that, I still have the Chiefs as like the favorite in the AFC.
Yeah, I mean, I still have the Chiefs at least winning 13 games, so whatever. They lost this one, they can afford to lose 3 more at the most anyways. I don't think it's a problem. But I mean, the Chiefs still probably should have won this game. I mean, they fumbled when they were in field goal territory, down 1 point with, what was it, a minute 25 left. They fumble at the Baltimore 32-yard line. So, I mean, you're assuming that Butker is going to make that. It was 2nd and 3rd when that run happened. So let's say he doesn't fumble, gets stopped, it's a 1-yard loss, whatever. You pick up 2 more yards on another run. There's 30 seconds left. You kick a field goal. The game's over. So, you look at it that way from the Chiefs' perspective and saying that you didn't play an amazing game, especially your defense. Your defense just could not stop the run at all, which I don't blame. I mean, when you go against the Ravens, it's super hard to stop the run because it's either Lamar keep, an option, a pitch, a this way, that way. It's very hard to stop the run, so I don't blame them. But they definitely did not step up when they needed to, and that's something that we've seen from their defense in the playoffs. In the regular season, their defense is definitely worse than it is when it gets to the playoffs. They do seem to turn it up another notch when they get there. So maybe it's just that. But, again, they still had a chance to win. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he really hasn't been that good since he came into the NFL. It's just that he's on the Chiefs, so you think he's really good. But he's really not been that good. And I was kind of surprised to hear that this was his first fumble in the NFL. But obviously just a costly turnover. It was basically like the Pats-Dolphins game from week 1. The Pats, that game's over if they just don't fumble the ball. Basically, literally the exact same thing in this game. So, from a Chiefs perspective, you look at it and say, if we don't fumble, we win the game, we're 2-0. And from a Ravens perspective, you look at it and say, we probably played one of our best games we're probably going to play all year against the best team in the NFL, and we probably should have lost. So maybe that tells you something, maybe it doesn't. I agree, Lamar definitely wasn't great throwing the ball. Running the ball, he was amazing, but throwing the ball, he had the Matthew pick, he had another pick. I think, did Matthew catch that other one? I forget who caught the other one, but
I think it was Matthew. Matthew had 2 picks.
Yeah, and he threw it in the red zone. Terrible pick there, obviously. So him throwing the ball has to get better, but that's not going to be a problem until the postseason, in my mind.
Yeah, regular season, it's not too much of a concern.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still it's bad.
And the one big play from that game that everyone's talking about is the 4th and 1 play where, Harbaugh asked him, "Do you want to go for it?" I mean, of course he's gonna say yes.
That's so cringe.
Yeah, I didn't like it. When I was watching the game live, I did see him say that, and they didn't pick it up on the broadcast right away. They picked it up, after the game. But of course they were gonna go for that. Why would they not go for that? It's 4th and 1. If you give the ball back to Mahomes, at that point there was still. They probably still would have had. They just used their last timeout. There was 1:05 in the game. So let's say you punt. There's probably 55 seconds left. You give the ball to Mahomes. Let's say even if he's inside his own 20-yard line, I'm never giving Mahomes the ball back with any time on the clock, no matter how many timeouts, no matter how long he has to go. There's no reason to. So of course you're going to go for that, even when you're on your own 43-yard line. And they couldn't stop the run all night. It shouldn't be as big of a deal as they made it because of 10 out of 10 times you're going to go for that. Especially when you have Lamar and especially when you've been running the ball like they were running the ball.
Yeah, I mean, you have the best running quarterback in the league. And
running back, yeah.
You just have the best running game in the league. And I just hate how the media covered that particular conversation between Harbaugh and Lamar. Just the only word I really have for it is just cringe. It's just dumb and pointless, and like, is it supposed to, what is the point of this? Like, why is this being covered so heavily? Is it to show some like brotherly connection between John Harbaugh and Lamar? Like, I don't know. Like, it's just like dumb. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, they were saying like the culture of the Ravens, like of course they were going to go for it. Everyone was screaming to go for it. It's like I think any team would scream to go for that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, there's not a team that's punting that ball. I don't know.
Especially when the other quarterback is Mahomes, and they've been going up and down the field on you as well. There's no way.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Well, the one thing I was going to say is the good thing that the Ravens did with basically no secondary. Again, they really only have Marlon Humphrey back there. Was they shut down Tyreek Hill, and Humphrey's not even the guy covering Hill. He obviously plays slot, so that was. I mean, he only had 3 catches for 14 yards. That was impressive because Hill. I mean, there's always at least 1 or 2 shots deep that they get, or they give him like a 5-yard slant and he just takes it for 60 yards. So I thought that was very impressive from a depleted secondary of the Ravens.
Yeah, I just so I'm not. I didn't. What do you know what their strategy was for?
I mean, they had a safety high every time. They were doubling him, and anytime they weren't, if it didn't look like they had a double on him, there was at least if they were in like a zone or something. I mean, they pretty much had him double covered the entire game.
I wonder what the stat would be for times that since Hill has been like a star in the league, times that he's been held under like 50 receiving yards. I feel like it has to be like super low.
I don't know. I feel like it's actually a lot. Because with the games where he doesn't pop off, he's almost like Tyler Lockett in the sense that they'll have huge games and low games. He's more consistent with having bigger games, I'd say, just because of the offense, and I think he's better than Lockett. I think most people would agree with that. But I think it's actually a lot lower than you probably think. I mean, higher than you think. Because there's definitely games where he'll kind of disappear, and it's not his fault because they're double covering him, but that's just what happens.
I just feel like he's always good for,
because he's never going to get 8 for 80. Like, that's never going to happen.
No, I know, but I feel like he's always good for, like, 2 plays where Mahomes escapes out of the pocket, rolls right, throws down 25 yards downfield. I feel like he's always good for 2 of those. So, I mean, yeah, you're probably right, but, I mean, it's really rare to hold Tyreek Hill for 3 receptions, 14 yards, because, I mean, almost every team has one guy on Hill the whole game with a safety deep. And he still toasts you. I mean, in the 2018 AFC Championship game, countless games against the Chiefs, Tyreek Hill always just finds a way to get open, and when Mahomes rolls out of the pocket. But
yeah, and the thing is, when that usually happens, and Hill has a quiet game, then Kelce has a huge game, which he did. I think he was 7 for 109 and a touchdown. 7 for 109 and a touchdown. So, I mean, that's kind of the game you play, because if they were to double Kelce, then Hill's going to be open on the outside. So, I guess, and then there's games, obviously, where both have 100-plus yards. But
who do you have as a better player? Just, like, if you have to pick who's a better player?
The better player or the more dynamic player?
I mean, who would you rather have?
I think I'd rather have Kelce, only because I think he's just more consistent, I would say. Which is kind of like what I was saying with Hill, but like it's so hard not to pick Hill because like at any point he can just get an 80-yard touchdown. But again, that's kind of like the hit or miss, so I'd rather go with the more consistent guy with Kelce. Even though, I mean, I think Kelce is one of the best tight ends to ever play, but like if he was on a different team, I do wonder how much better he'd be. He was good with Alex Smith. Like he was really good with Alex Smith, but obviously when you have Mahomes at your quarterback and you have Hill on the outside, it's definitely easier to get catches up the middle because you're never going to get double covered if Tyreek's always getting double covered.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I
still think he'd be a top tight end, but I mean, would he be the number 1 tight end? I don't know.
I think so. So my argument would be, at least my initial thought would be Kelce is able to do his thing regardless of Mahomes, whereas Tyreek Hill may not be.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I still think Tyreek Hill would be able to do his thing without Mahomes. He would have to play different with a pure pocket guy like a Brady or like, a Rivers or whatever. But I still think he'd be able to. He's still so fast, and it's not even just like it's not his top end speed that's amazing. It's just the fact that he can go from 0 to 100 just so quickly. There's just like Randy Moss was a guy that had insane top end speed, but his acceleration was not insane by any mean. Wes Welker obviously was never close to him in speed. He was a slow guy, but his acceleration and quickness, and that's what Tyreek Hill has like Randy Moss speed with like your slot receiver acceleration and quickness, and it's insane.
Yeah.
I think I would take Hill. I think Kelce would have a better. I think he'd be more consistent across the league in terms of. I think he's just more transferable. But I think Hill's just. I honestly think Hill's underrated, and we talked about this in my dorm with Joey, and you guys kind of both disagreed with me, but I know Hill needs Mahomes to do some of the things that he does, but I think if you had a pocket passer like a Brady or a guy that's just not as dynamic as Mahomes, there's other types. He can play other types of game. Like he doesn't need to be a guy that has to get his big plays from plays that are Mahomes rolling out of the pocket when the play's broken down. He can still use his speed in many different ways. I still think he'd be insane on a lot of other teams. I'd go with Hill. That's my answer.
All right, yeah. So I go Kelce, you go with Hill. Again, I don't think there's a wrong answer. But it's kind of if you want the the big flashy plays or kind of the more consistent middle of the field plays, I guess.
And actually, there's been talk. Do you have Kelce as your best tight end of all time right now?
No. I think Gronk. I mean, not only what he's doing this year. I think he already has 4 touchdowns this year, which is crazy. But I mean, that 4-year stretch, 5-year stretch, whatever it was. I mean, he was the best tight end in football at that point, and he was the most dominant tight end I've probably ever seen. So
there was a commercial for I think it was a T-Mobile commercial. I don't know if it was released this week or week 1 or before week 1, but I think Brady said like this is the best Gronk he's seen like ever, and I was like, well, that's just cap. Like Gronk's awful now, but now he's got 4 touchdowns and 2. He looks really good. I mean, he doesn't look as dominant as he was, but
no, and I mean he's never gonna be that dominant again. But still.
I mean he like right now he's playing like the best tight end in the NFL.
No, he is. He's playing like one of the best. I mean, again, the tight ends are better now than they ever were. Obviously, you never had a Kelce, a Kittle, a Waller, an old Gronk. You never had guys like that.
Even an Andrews. I mean,
even an Andrews.
Like an Andrews 10 years ago would have been like the second best or best tight end in the NFL.
Yeah, like you never had these type of dynamic tight ends. And I forget where I heard this or like read it or whatever. And it's like something but you don't really think about. But like the way the offenses have changed and all the new motions and formations, tight ends, and also the way that they call penalties on defense, tight ends are just way more of a part of your offense. They used to just be blocking, and then if they did catch a pass, they called a pass. But for most part, they were just blocking. Now it's like they're like a wide receiver too, on most teams, to be honest.
Yeah,
so.
No, they are. It was a huge weakness of. I mean, you can tell when a team doesn't have a good tight end. That's why the Patriots went and signed 2 tight ends for probably overpaid them for what they were actually worth. Not having a tight end on a team is huge.
You need a tight end. If anything, 2 tight ends. Like if you're not gonna have a top tight end, you need 2 tight ends who are pretty similar. Like it's really become like a huge trend probably the last 4 or 5 years.
I think it started like 10 years ago. I mean, I think it really started with Gronk, and then it took teams a while to really to develop a guy like not necessarily like Gronk, but just the modern tight end.
I think it took till Kelce to do that. Yeah. Gronk was like the first, but no one could ever recreate that. And
one who I actually will say is maybe the first was actually Aaron Hernandez.
Well, yeah, and
I mean, I know obviously, but
yeah, well, I mean, I would, yeah, whatever. I agree with that, but
I really I just wish Aaron Hernandez was not a murderer because he was my favorite player before everything. So it was like how did this even happen?
Yeah.
Why does this have to happen to me? Well, not I didn't get killed.
What didn't happen to you? Yeah.
I just mean why does my favorite player have to go to jail and all that?
Well,
he was more fun to watch than Gronk, and especially because he was the tight end number 2. But whatever. We'll get into the next game unless there's no other games you want to talk about.
Well, I think we don't have to talk about a specific game, but I think just games to talk about. You know what? Actually, let's just do. There's a couple undefeated teams still left in the NFL, and one of those. Well, I'll say 2 of those teams.
Actually, wait. You know what we should do? Let's go over so there's 7 teams. Do you have all 7 in front of you?
Yeah.
Let's go through each and say if they're let's just say if they're legit or not legit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, all right. I got all 7 right here. So
Okay.
I'll start with the better ones and go down to the ones that have been more surprising. The Bucks,
I mean, we don't have to talk about the
yeah.
Bucks.
Rams,
Don't have to talk about them.
Niners.
Don't have to talk. Well, I mean, do you think they're a legit contender?
I
for the
think
Super
there's
Bowl?
discussion, and again, I think it's only because of the division, but yeah, I think they'll win 10 games.
I have them as a 80% chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they're making the playoffs. I think it's just becomes who's coming out of that division. Because again, Seattle already is a loss. And then there's another team on who I haven't said yet who hasn't lost as well. But is it going to be the Rams or is it going to be the Niners or I don't know who's coming out of the division. So I think it'll be interesting to see what the wild card teams are. It has to be 11 wins, right? For the wild card, 10 at least.
Yeah,
I think 11.
I think 11. So 10 gives you a solid shot. 11 to me, like if you have 11 and don't make the playoffs, that's crazy.
There might be a team with 11 wins that might not make the playoffs.
The only reason I don't think that's going to be the case is because you have 3 of the most, 3 teams that are competing for that are all in the same division, if not 4.
I think 4.
I think 4 too.
I think obviously the one we're both thinking of is a little bit weaker, but I think they're right there.
I have them as I mean, if you made me pick the 3 wildcard teams right now, you'd have to convince me to not take all 3 NFC West teams. The only reason to not is literally because they all play each other.
Yeah, and so you're one team has to do worse than the others. It just has to be that. But I don't unless they all go 3-3 versus each other, then and win the games outside their division. I don't know. But
they're gonna win a lot of games outside of their division.
they are, and again they already have. So I guess it's just the Cardinals are the other team that we're talking about, but. They're 2-0. I mean, should they have lost last week? Possibly. But they didn't. They won. So they're 2-0. And if Murray, again, the problem last year with them was that Murray wasn't healthy. And again, Kingsbury's not a great coach, but Murray wasn't healthy last year, and their defense wasn't as good as it is now. It's not good, like amazing now, but it's better. So if they're, if Murray's gonna stay healthy and still put up MVP type numbers, for sure, I think that they could be. They're going to be. They're not going to win this division because they're not better than the Rams, Seahawks, or Niners, but they're for sure in that wild card race. Obviously, there's no doubt. So,
yeah, you know who? Okay, so as far as the Cardinals are concerned, I honestly think Chandler Jones is like the most overrated pass rusher like in the league. And
does this have to do with because he was a expat? Or?
No, because I would have said this even if he was on the Patriots. I just think he gets sacks in like the most meaningless games, and then in any sort of like big, like the Cardinals are going to have a Sunday night or Thursday night game against a division rival. They're going to have a big game, and I guarantee you for a fact Chandler Jones is going to be invisible. He's going to be invisible. I mean, we'll look back on this right now. I mean, I can't. I
guess
forward to the future, but that's my bet. Is he's going to be invisible because he always is. I mean, he always is. He's honestly lucky he's been on the Cardinals because that team's been like. Irrelevant for so long, but now that they're finally relevant, I think it's a very solid chance they're going to have games that matter, and I think he's going to be invisible on them. But yeah, I mean, regardless, those 4 teams are all just so good. I mean, you kind of start to think about like how good of a structure divisions are in the NFL when you have a division like the AFC South that is like just really not good at all, and they have a division like the NFC West that is like. All 4 of those teams would probably be right now the best team in the AFC South, if not the second best. Pretty much.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
What are you looking at?
No, I was just looking at it. They're going back to 2 wildcard teams this year, right?
I don't think so, no.
They're not keeping it. I don't think they're keeping it the way they did it last year. I think they're going back to normal.
They are.
No, I don't think they are. I think they announced that they were going back to normal. Because when you said 3 wildcard teams, I was thinking, aren't there usually just 2 wildcard teams? Because last year there was 3, because of the season. But I think maybe they're stick with it. But I swear I saw something.
They're definitely sticking with it.
I swear I saw something that they weren't, but I don't know. Maybe not. That's what I was looking up.
I guess they stuck with they. Okay, well.
We'll come back to it at the end and see if we can find it. But I just thought that I thought I saw something that said they were going back to the way it normally was, with 2 wildcard teams, not 3. Because that's why that division is so intriguing. Because if there's only 2 wildcard teams, one of those teams just isn't going to make it.
Yeah.
But again, maybe you're right. I could have sworn they said they were going back. Maybe I was thinking of baseball because I know baseball they went back to normal. Maybe that's what I was thinking of. I don't know. But so we're not done with the undefeated teams. So that was 4 of them. Now let's go. Let's go to the AFC teams. The Raiders.
I want to believe in the Raiders, but right now, I mean, I can't say they're anything more than a pretender. Like if I'm going,
Yeah, I think Derek Carr's just played amazing these first 2 weeks. Now their win last week against Pittsburgh was impressive. I probably would have picked them to win the game, but it's a super hard game in Pittsburgh. Even though Pittsburgh's not as good as I think people think they are, it's still a tough game.
Does anybody think Pittsburgh's good?
I don't know. I don't know why you would, because they're not. And I don't see. I'll be very surprised if they are like over 500. To be honest.
I don't think
they're that good.
9, 8, but they're not making the playoffs.
I don't think they're that good.
I literally haven't heard anybody say the Pittsburgh Steelers. I hear literally everybody say exactly what you said, which is like, I don't see the Pittsburgh Steelers being good as everybody says they are. Other than Pittsburgh Steeler fans, I literally never hear it.
I think it's just because you always see it. Like you always see people like why are you not talking about the Steelers enough? But I mean, they shouldn't be talked about. Like they're not that good.
No, yeah, they've stayed on Roethlisberger for he should have been out.
He'll be done after this year, and then we'll see what they do. I'm kind of curious to see what they do after this because again, they're not going to be picking top in the draft. So what do? Do you have like a bridge guy and then wait? I don't know, but.
Does Roethlisberger have to be the bridge guy for another year?
I don't even think his body could take it, especially now going to 17 games. I'd be surprised if he even plays all 17. Not just injury. I think they probably just rest him one of these games. Give him like 2 bye weeks almost. I don't see how he plays 17 games in a season. And then do it again next year. There's no way.
I would agree with that.
Next team, Denver.
I don't think they're legit contenders. I think they're a solid team, and I probably underrated them a little bit, but I still don't buy them getting consistent quarterback play. Like Bridgewater's still just not a great quarterback, and he should be consistent, and he's not as consistent as he should be, or at least as he used to be before the injury. So I don't buy it, and I mean, they don't have anybody else really. Like Drew Lock is irrelevant and all that. So their defense is good. Their weapons are pretty good, but it's about the quarterback. And that division's another tough division. I still think the Chargers are better. I think obviously the Chiefs are better. And the Raiders, if they play like they have the first 2 weeks, they're at least competitive. I don't know that I buy they're going to play as good as they have the past 2 weeks because I love Derek Carr. I think he's better than Kirk Cousins. I think he's better than a lot of like middling quarterbacks, but he's not an elite quarterback by any mean. So, yeah, I mean, I would go pretenders or not contenders for them. I don't think they're making the playoffs.
I would go. I don't think they'll make the playoffs. Because I think the division's really tough, and I think they will lose some of these games. But I've been high on the Broncos. The last year or whatever.
I tried to be high on the Broncos, but then that's why I kind of realized like I can't be because I think the first year they kind of started to gain a little bit hype after like the initial tank after Manning left and all that stuff. I was kind of high on them, and then they burned me, so I'm not touching them.
Yeah, I've been high on them, and I've always liked them. And again, if they just get the right quarterback, they will be one of the better teams. But yeah, I mean, will Bridgewater have a couple games where he's not as good? Yeah, I mean, it happened last year with the Panthers where they were competitive. I think they went 6-10 last year. They probably could have been better if he played better. So that's probably what's going to happen this year. Again, tougher division. With the Chargers and the Raiders both playing well, obviously the Chiefs. So, yeah, I think it's just a good step for next year when they get maybe Rodgers or maybe someone else or maybe in another year when they draft a quarterback, whatever it is. But the last team is the Panthers.
I like the Panthers a lot. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but I think they're going to do better than 6-10. I think a lot of people have them as like another kind of like a repeat year, just maybe more competitive, but maybe the same record, about like 6-11 or whatever, 7-10. I think they could be like 9-8. I think there's a solid chance that they're actually the second best team in that division. I still think the Saints are probably just better because they have a better head coach, and better coach teams just happen to win games, even though they shouldn't. But on paper, I think they might have the second best roster, and I like Sam Darnold. And that actually reminds me of the take I had last week or 2 weeks ago. But
what was that?
Well, let me pull it up. It was It was that I'd rather have from now on. I'd rather have Sam Darnold over Lamar Jackson. And
Yeah.
I mean, has that aged well? I don't know. I mean, kind of.
We'll see in like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Because again, I like Darnold too, but
Well, you know when we will see is after this year's playoffs.
yeah, I mean, well, the problem is I think one team's going to make the playoffs and the other team's not. So
No, I'm just saying, like, I mean, if Lamar never is the guy that can win a Super Bowl, then I at least can't, like, lose the take, because then you'd just rather have neither. But.
Yeah, I guess. And again, I've always liked Darnold as well, but that first game against the Jets played really well in the first half, not so much the second half, and then this game definitely played well. I mean, I'm not saying he didn't.
He didn't have to. It was
just a blowout.
Game.
It was just a blowout game. So, and again, it was against a good Saints team. I think the Saints are pretty good. I think they probably are second best team in this division, but it was just a complete blowout from as soon as the game started. So I don't know. We'll see. They play the Texans tonight. They should be 3-0. I know the Texans have played well, but that was with Tyrod Taylor. Now he's injured. He's not even playing tonight. It's a rookie, third-rounder, David Mills. I mean, if the Panthers don't win this game, and I would say by at least double digits, then I don't know. Because they should be able to win this game. Darnold should have a big game. Texans are not good. This should be, and then they play the Cowboys week 4. The Panthers do. So we'll see what happens.
We will see what happens. I think. Do I want to? Okay, I'm just gonna say I think the Panthers are a dark horse wildcard team this year. So out of all these teams,
I mean, so they have to win at least 10 games. That's what you're saying.
I think they have to win at least 9 games for that take to be valid. I think they're a 9 or 10.
So you're saying just in the hunt, not making the playoffs?
Yeah, like
Okay.
I think they're a team that's like people. I don't think anybody had them as like a team that has a legit.
They'll basically be like the Raiders, where like they're in it and then they finish like 8-8 or something.
I think they'll be a slightly better version of the Raiders.
Okay,
Sure. I think they're like 9-8 this year, or like maybe 10-7 and miss, or maybe 8-9. And if they're 8-9, I'm wrong. I'm gonna say they're 9-8 or 10-7.
Well, I'm gonna assume that they win tonight. So they already have 3 wins. So all they got to do is win 5 games or 6 games, 5 to 6 games, and you still have to play the Falcons twice. Still have to play the Bucs twice and the Saints one more time. But you know, I mean, you should be able. If you're 3-0, you should be able to win 5 or 6 more games. If you're the Panthers.
I'm gonna say that I have them as either 9-8 or 10-7. If they're 8-9, then I'll consider this take wrong.
Okay.
Because I think 8-9 is for the NFC is far enough out to where you're not really an actual dark horse.
Yeah, I think they'll finish 8-9, maybe 9-8, you know, depending. But I don't see him being 10-7. I think that's a lot for this team. Again, unless Darnold really does turn out to be like a true consistent quarterback, then I think there definitely is a chance. Because the defense it's a little underrated. It's not good, but it's definitely not like bad. It's like actually decent. So you know, if that defense could play, you know, consistent, Darnold plays consistent, McCaffrey doesn't get injured, yeah, I could definitely see him getting to 10, but I think 8 or 9 is probably right.
Yeah, we also still don't necessarily know about Matt Rule. That this kind of relies on him actually being a good head coach, which he seems like he is.
Yeah, I mean, I like Matt Rule as a head
coach.
Too. I think he's actually pretty good. I mean, you know, he's not amazing, but I think he's actually like pretty decent.
I think he's pretty good too. It's still an unknown to me.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
He could be bad. I mean, it's just not been enough games yet. But that's the amount of undefeated teams there are. Unless you want, I don't have any other games from week 2. I'm like dying to talk about. I mean, other than
no, there wasn't, like we said earlier, there wasn't any amazing games. I mean, the Cowboy game happened. I talked about it already. So if you want to check that out, go to a Whole 9 Yard Clips channel and you could see that. But
I'll throw the link in the description to Brandon's Cowboy.
Yeah, and then Drew's gonna have his Patriots one up.
It'll be out. It'll either be out or be coming out soon when you see this video. So
yeah,
if it's out, I'll put the link in the description.
Yeah, so you can see that from us. That's probably going to happen most weeks, unless it's like a crazy game or it's like a Sunday night or Monday night game, which the Cowboys play Monday night. Then we'll probably talk about it on this episode, but for the most part, it'll probably just be on the Clips channel.
Yeah, so I guess we kind of talked about our predictions already, but let's just get into the predictions for week 3.
Yeah.
All right. I went first last week, so I'll let you go first this week.
Yeah. All right. So first game, I have Cardinals at Jags. The line I have is 7.5, and I'm taking the Cardinals on that. The Jaguars have not looked good the first 2 games at all. You know, Lawrence hasn't looked good. Urban Meyer has not looked good. You know, you said you don't like him at all, and right now that's looking pretty true. He does not look good as an NFL head coach. The way the Cardinals have been playing, you know, they had a little bit shaky win last week, but this defense isn't good, and Murray's been crushing the last 2 weeks, so I would assume the same thing. Murray is a big week, big game. I just think they win this game pretty handily, honestly. I think Lawrence probably does the same thing he's been doing the last 2 weeks, where he'll have yards and maybe a couple touchdowns, but he'll throw a couple picks, have bad sacks, and the Cardinals take advantage of that.
Yeah, the rookie quarterbacks have been really mistake prone.
Yeah.
I mean, Mac Jones has probably been the best quarterback so far.
Yeah, I would say so.
Will he be the best? Probably not. But my game, I'll start with Chargers at Chiefs. The Chiefs are 6.5-point favorites, and I'm gonna go with the Chiefs. I just view the Chiefs coming off a loss. They're gonna be hungry for a win. The Chiefs aren't gonna be 1-2 in September. It really just comes down to, can the Chargers cover? And I don't think they can. I just think the Chiefs' offense is going to come out and it's going to be explosive. The defense is going to force some turnovers. I think maybe you see a pick from Herbert or something on a tip ball. And I don't think the Chargers' defense is going to stop. I think this is a game where Hill goes for 120 and maybe a touchdown or two. Kelce has 80 yards and a touchdown. Maybe Demarcus Robinson gets a touchdown or something. Mahomes goes off. We'll see the Chiefs return to form this week. I think this is an easy Chiefs win.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the Chiefs will win this game, but based on what I saw last week at the Chargers play, it seems like you're going to have to beat them running the ball. Maybe that changes when they play the Chiefs, but that's the way that they played us. So we'll see, but I do agree. I think the Chiefs will win that game. And what was the line on that?
6.5.
6.5? Yeah, I think they probably win by more. 6.5. My next game is Colts Titans. Again, we kind of already talked about it, but the line that, like we said, we agreed on was 4.5 in favor of the Titans. And again, even if Wentz doesn't play, I'm still sticking with it. I think that the Titans, again, I've always been higher on the Colts than the Titans, and I'm really not even high on the Titans right now, but the injuries and the sloppy play that the Colts have shown so far, it's hard to trust them. And again, the Titans haven't played much better, but the comeback win they had in Seattle last week, that's almost impossible to have it in Seattle against the Seahawks with Russell Wilson. I think they carry that momentum into this week. It's only 4.5. I think they can cover that, so I'm going Titans.
I'm picking the exact same game, but I'm going Colts. Honestly, Wentz could play, Wentz could not play. Obviously, I'd rather Wentz plays, but at least I kind of have that nobody's seen this quarterback play. If I get an Eason playing, if it's Eason playing, then I kind of get that. I think the Colts are still a better team. I expect the offensive line to play better. I know they've had a bunch of injuries, and it's kind of injuries that you're not going to not play the guy, but clearly they're not 100%. Hopefully that extra week gives them what they need. But yeah, I like the Colts. I don't see them starting 0-3. That would be worst case situation if you're the Colts. You really need this win. Especially obviously against the Titans, or the team that you're competing for the division against. And honestly, I'm not really a big fan of the Titans. I like Vrabel as a head coach. I think he's a solid head coach, but I'm rooting against Ryan Tannehill. I've always thought he's like the most overrated quarterback in the NFL, and it's not really relevant to this game necessarily, but I still think that's the case, and I think the Colts at least cover. I think it's a close game.
If the Colts lose, are they out of the division?
No.
They're not out at 0-3?
No.
Okay. I think if they lose, I'd be super surprised if they came back and won this division. I think the Titans would win it, and I don't even know if they'd get to 10 wins, to be honest. And if they did, it'd be 10. But I mean, start 0-3, and if your quarterback's not healthy, that's tough. That's really tough. And again, they got a tough schedule out of the way, at least the first couple games, but they would have to go 2-0 against the Jaguars and the Texans to have a real shot.
That's going to happen.
I think it would happen, but the Colts, again, they seem to lose a lot of games that they probably shouldn't lose. So
that's true, but Colts are winning this division. I'm picking it.
All right.
I still feel
win
confident.
Or lose, they win the division.
Win or lose, I think they win this division still. And if they somehow don't, I still think, you know what? Never mind. But Colts winning this division. That's my pick. All right, you can go with your game.
All right, I got Bucks Rams, and I know you have the same pick, but we have different teams. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I have the Rams at 1.5 plus 1.5. This is probably going to be the game of the week. It's at least the two best teams playing against each other, so I would assume it's going to be game of the week. In LA, which is surprising. I think that in LA, it's usually that's a 3-point advantage directly to the home team right away. The Bucks are still favored by 1.5, so I'm kind of surprised by the line. I think the Bucs may be the better team, but the Rams are just so dynamic. I've been big on the Rams. I've been a little bit low on the Bucs. Brady's looked amazing, but they did play the Falcons last week, and you know what? They almost blew that game. If Matt Ryan didn't feel like giving up 2 interceptions, 2 pick sixes to the Bucs, then that game is a lot closer than you really think. Instead of being 48-25, maybe it's 32-30 or something like that. Who knows? But even though Brady had 5 touchdowns, he had 4 in week 1. He's looked amazing so far. I like the Rams in this game. And you know what? I'm going to pick the Rams to win, not just to cover, but to win. So, yeah, I think Rams win at home. It's a 4:25 game Fox game. That's going to be prime time. I think everyone's going to be watching that game.
I'm going to go with the Bucs. I'm the same line, 1.5. I think the Bucs win by more than 1.5. I think the Bucs are up for vengeance from last year. Last year they took a pretty bad loss to the Rams, and I think the Bucs just win this game. I think the Bucs are the better team overall right now. Still, the Bucs have come out pretty hot. Brady's thrown 9 touchdowns, and he has 2 picks, but those 2 picks were really not. At least one of them wasn't a legitimate pick. Maybe that ball to Fournette could have been thrown slightly better, but it's like a 4-yard pass. Like, just catch the ball. Yeah. I view the Bucs as winning this game. I think it could go either way. This is the game that I'm not like super confident in. Out of my picks, I could see the Rams winning this game for sure. But I'll go with Tampa. So.
Next game for me, Seahawks at Vikings. The line's 1.5 in favor of Seattle. That's what I'm taking. The Vikings, they're not a good team. They're already 0-2. Terrible loss last week, like we were talking about. They also have a 7-game losing streak versus the Seahawks, at least since Russell Wilson's been there. I'm assuming that's probably maybe even before that. I don't know. But I just never liked this Vikings team. I don't think they're that good. And I think the Seahawks, again, coming off that terrible loss, I do wonder what Wilson's record is coming off a loss, especially a home loss. It's probably a pretty good record in the next week. So I think this all comes into favor of Seattle, and I think Seattle wins this game pretty easily.
Yeah. I took the same exact pick as you, and I have the same exact reasoning, so I won't waste anybody's time.
Yeah, and my last pick, Eagles at Cowboys. Line's 3.5 for Dallas. That's what I'm taking. Of course, I was not going to take the Eagles side of that. And yeah, I think Dallas is the better team anyways. I think coming off last week, we didn't play a great game, but we played a good enough game to beat a team that I think is going to at least be 500 in a really tough division. So I think that was a good win that we had. Obviously played the Bucs really tough week 1. Possibly could have won that game. And you know what? Our defense has played really well so far this year. We have 6 forced turnovers and a couple sacks already. If Micah Parsons is going to play defensive end again, I assume a couple more sacks. And again, our offense, the Eagles have a terrible secondary. I assume Dak's going to light it up. I think, yeah, Monday Night Football. We never played good on Monday Night Football. I think our last win was in 2018 against the Cardinals or 2017. But, yeah, I think the Cowboys win.
All right, my last pick is Saints at Patriots. Patriots are favored by 2.5. I'm going with the Patriots. I know the first 3 weeks I have picked the Patriots, and every week. This was a game I wasn't like too confident in either. It's this game and the Chiefs game I wasn't like. Or sorry, not the Chiefs game, the Rams game I wasn't too confident in. But I just think Belichick eats up on mistake-prone quarterbacks. And if you tell me Jameis Winston's not throwing like 2 picks in this game, I'd be surprised, and I would pick the Saints to win this game. But I think he throws at least a pick, probably 2. And I just think Belichick. I like Sean Payton as a head coach for sure, but I think Belichick is just still in a different league by himself in terms of a coach. I think Mac plays kind of how he's played the past 2 weeks, which is a solid game, nothing crazy, nothing awesome, nothing out of this world. But he plays a relatively mistake-free game, and the Patriots are able to just will their way to a win at home. And I think it's close. I think it's a relatively boring game overall, but I think the Patriots win by 5 to 10 points. So.
All right, so those are our picks for next week. The overall records, I think we're both 7-3. So, yeah, we're both 7-3 on the year.
That's pretty good. I mean, that's like what somebody would be like if they were actually picking the games like straight up. almost. Like
Yeah, and we've gone against the spread, we've gone with it, and we're still 7-3. So I think we'll see what happens after next week. But yeah, I think it's been pretty impressive so far.
we just got to start betting on these games. Like we're just honestly, like I wish just like we had put like money on, like we'd be rich. Anyways,
And to answer the question, you're right. They are sticking with the expanded wild card.
okay.
At least I'm pretty sure. I'm like 90.
I'm like 90. Sure. I'm 100% sure they are.
Yeah.
Like I'm like 99.
So yeah, there'll be 3 wild card teams. The top 2 teams will get a bye.
Top 1 team.
Top 1 team will get a bye, and 3 wild card teams. So yeah, so we'll see what happens in the NFC West then.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. Feel free to like comment all that stuff. Feel free to. I already said that. Appreciate everybody watched all that stuff. Subscribe, all that. Feel free to check out the Clips channel. I'll link Brandon's video. We're also going to be recording a video right after this video that's going to be in the Clips channel as well. So check that out. If it is up, I will have the link in the description. Some NBA content reacting to Sports Illustrated top 15 players for the 2021-2022 season. We'll be back we'll be back Sunday night after the games.
Yeah.
Goodbye.